This episode of the BREWtally Speaking Podcast is brought to you by On Point Pomade. Keep your beard and hair looking on point with their line of pomades and beard oils over at onpointpomade.com. Use our code BSP15 at checkout and get 15% off your total purchase order. So thanks again to On Point Pomade for sponsoring our show. This episode is also sponsored by the Bean Bastard Coffee. Head over to thebeanbastard.com and pick up any one of their delicious hand-roasted coffees. Coffee lovers will also enjoy their hand-cut and handmade espresso candles and soaps as well. If you're in the Buffalo, New York area, head to their store located at 448 Elmwood Avenue. And thanks again to the Bean Bastard for supporting this show. Speaking Podcast is proudly sponsored by Rockabilia.com. With over 500,000 officially licensed items in their online store, you're guaranteed to find something you need. Use our code BREWtally and get 10% off your total purchase order. Now on to the show. What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the BREWtally Speaking Podcast. I am John, your host, and this episode's guest is a legendary Dennis DeYoung, formerly of Styx, the voice of Styx, the voice of a generation. His latest album, 28 East Volume 2, is out now via Frontiers Records. Very much like I said last week with Dee Snider, it is sometimes an honor and a privilege to get to talk to some of these people who I grew up with in my house listening to music and so forth. I mean, honestly, like, who doesn't know Styx? Like, who didn't grow up indirectly with Styx? Like, they're probably like some of these other bands where, like, you know more music than you think you do, but it was just really a privilege to get to talk to Mr. DeYoung, and it was one of those where during the chat, you know, we had kind of missed each other a couple of times, and then finally when we got to do it, it's almost like it was meant to be for this time, because instead of having, you know, press on either side of me, it was basically me. And that allowed Dennis and I to really have a good conversation instead of it being like a 20-minute press junket kind of thing. Basically, I had to spend an hour with him, and it was really cool to kind of, you know, he says some of the things that you've heard him say in some of the other interviews you'll hear on like Eddie Trunk and so forth, but I think by and large, the thing I really enjoyed about getting to talk to Dennis and really wanting to talk to him, the album's incredible. The music he's put out is really good. It's not one of those where you can tell it's phoned in, the heydays behind them, they're just doing this just to keep the name alive or whatever. This record really is good, and it stands up with anything else Dennis has done over his prolific career at this point. The fact that he's essentially calling it done as a recording artist is crazy, because this is these two volumes are just so good. But it was one of those where, you know, hearing him on Eddie Trunk quite a bit, hearing him on Chris Jericho's podcast, he was one of the few people from the era that he's from that has really done so well adapting to new forms of media to be able to do interviews and, you know, talk at length, tell great stories. And you know, it's one of those where it's like when you have someone like Dennis who has done what he has and is able to really shine in this podcast medium, it's like, well, why the fuck wouldn't you want to have someone like that on? And so I jumped at the opportunity, and I had a really good time talking with him. And it is kind of funny because there's a couple of moments in this where, you know, I did challenge him a little bit. You know, he's kind of saying that, you know, people don't buy physical media anymore. And I'm literally sitting next to a shelf with all my records on it and, you know, kind of challenging him that I think a lot of people do actually still want tangible things that they can grab, touch, feel, smell, all those kind of things. And I think that's even why the podcast medium is doing so well. I was listening to the Jesse Leach episode that Dewey from Pure Pleasure had just posted as of when I'm recording this. And, something that those two kind of talk about at length is just that there's this sense of connection that people are missing in our day-to-day lives. We're so quick to be integrated into social media, looking at our phones on computers and so forth, that, we're missing the day-to-day interactions that we used to have, the way you would get tribal knowledge of just hearing stories from others and taking their experiences in and growing yourself. And, we kind of touch on that actually in this chat, with Dennis kind of talking and reflecting back on some of his earlier lyrics that he had written for Styx, like The Grand Illusion, Mr. Roboto, and all that kind of stuff. It's one of those where, as I even said in the D episode, sometimes it's crazy that some of these artists that a lot of people have I don't want to say it like this, but have kind of written off as being, they're that old band. They're the old band people. There's still the things that they said 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago. It's still relevant today, and we can't discredit that. There's the old saying, and I don't remember who said it, but it was basically, those who fail to learn from history are doomed to repeat it, essentially. And it's crazy that, like Dennis and I kind of talk about a little bit about how some of the stuff he's been talking about is still relevant today, and he's been talking about it for so long, and it's like, yeah, it's in a poppy song, but the lyrics and the words still ring true today, and it's crazy that, we didn't necessarily heed his advice, I guess, all those generations ago. But without further ado, you didn't come here to listen to me blab and kind of get all intellectual with everything. I do want to preface, though, he recorded it basically on his side. The video that we did was recorded via his iPad. And there's a little bit of a clipping noise as he's talking. I don't think it takes away from the conversation. You can clearly hear what he's saying. So just as a heads up, might be a minor annoyance to you. I did the best I could to try to fix it. But fuck it. And it's live. That's what doing things live in the moment is like. So without further ado, this is my conversation with Dennis DeYoung. Talk to you on the other side of it. Someone else. John.
John?
Yes.
O-H-N?
No H. I'm not biblical. I didn't earn my H yet.
Oh, like John Anderson.
Sure. John Anderson. There's no, John Candy had an H too. Now I think about it, I was gonna say John Candy, but that's wrong. Usually,
where are you? Where are you?
I'm in Grand Rapids, Michigan.
Dutchman.
That is a lot of Dutch people here in Michigan. I'm originally from Delaware, though. So
my name is DeYoung. So my dad was half Dutch. What were you gonna say?
I was gonna say I'm originally from Delaware, though. So kind of a nomad, man of no land.
Joe Biden.
Yes, Joe Biden. I often forget about that, surprisingly. I always hear the Wayne's World joke is the reference everyone always says when I say Delaware. And I'm like, yeah, I've been hearing that for 25 years now. And it's still not very funny.
What's a mother to do?
So I know you probably got some press you're doing today after me, so we'll get right into it. Your newest final.
I got nothing after this. Whatever you want to do. I'm trapped in my house for 15 months, for God's sake.
Surprisingly today, I just got an email saying that we got approved for a festival, and it was weird because I wasn't sure that anyone would want to do in-person media at a festival, so I was really kind of hesitant to even apply, and just got the approval, and I'm like, all right, it seems like that's the last straw to say that things are finally kind of back on track.
You get a vaccine?
I did. I worked for a company that made one of them, the Johnson & Johnson one, actually.
Okay.
So
good luck. Good luck.
Thank you very much. Your last recorded album, it's volume 2, but 26 East volume 2 is out now. First of all, I really do want to say wholeheartedly, I want to say thank you for making an album where you can clearly tell that you were having fun making the record. It comes across throughout the whole experience.
Thanks, John. You can see where we are here?
Yeah.
This is, that's a green screen. That's Sting's powder room. Okay, that joke always works. Yeah, this is where I made the record. The last 4 tracks were all, actually the whole album was mixed right here in this, that thing, by myself, because a lot of those Styx records, most of them from Equinox, I was kind of like the centerpiece to developing the recorded sound and mixing it. I had a lot of help from the engineer and the other guys in the band. We did it as a collective, but I was kind of like on board. I'm the captain, as it were. So I mixed this stuff, and I'm very pleased as somebody like me can be, who is always in the process of challenging himself and beating himself up to say, well, you could have done better, you schmuck. That the way it turned out, the reaction overwhelmingly has been of these last 2 volumes has been so uplifting and positive to a 74-year-old that it's amazing. And I resisted doing this. I didn't want to do it because I figured no one would give a fiddler's fart. And 2, with the way the music business is, it's just, you're wasting your time and money to do this stuff. Certainly with 2 volumes. But Jim Peterick, my friend and neighbor, he lives 3 blocks from me, who's in Ides and March and Survivor. He tricked me into doing it. So I'm glad we did it, and I got to say goodbye to the fans who have made me a very wealthy man, and I don't take that lightly.
I think that's throughout everything I've heard you do. When you were on Chris Jericho's podcast, when Volume 1 had come out, when you were doing the rounds, with like Daddy Trunks and so forth, that was kind of the interesting thing about it, because even though you had said there was another one coming, that this was almost kind of a double victory lap of sorts for you to really kind of thank the fans. And it was really refreshing to me as someone who, grew up on, like Styx music and a lot of the stuff my parents listened to, that you seemingly are one of the few artists who, I don't want to say is self-aware, but is one of those where it's like, you understand that fans love, Styx music. You have your greatest hits and the things that everyone wants to hear from you, and that people probably aren't as receptive to newer music from someone in your position. But I love the fact that you are aware of that. And you said that even going into this recording process of these 2 records, that basically you knew it had to be at least that good or better because no one would care. And you didn't want to taint what you had been doing. And I just think that that's really admirable as an artist to understand that at this point in your career.
I'm the guy who created the Grand Illusion in 77, and I said, deep inside, we're all the same. And I did tell the audience we're an illusion. We're creating it for your entertainment, for goodness sakes.
Right.
I said, don't be fooled by the radio. I was talking about us. We're here. We're trying to sell you something. It's capitalism. And capitalism works this way. We create the illusion of a need for buyers that they then feel obligated to fulfill. That's okay. Capitalism has been the best. It's brought more boats up, with the tide than any other form of government. But it has its drawbacks. We all know it does. But I was just saying, hey, by the way, I'm from the south side of Chicago, and my parents were, don't be too full of yourself. I'll be a little bit, because nobody pays attention. Don't. But remember, ultimately, you ain't all that much. Because I've only ever been, listen, when you start playing the accordion, you better have a good sense of humility. So you start off on the accordion, well, okay, this is how this works. So I've always known that I don't look down on people for what they do for a living, or, I try to accept people for who they are and what they are based on how they treat me. And it's always been my belief there's only one rule, that's the golden rule. If we just practice that, we jackwagon stupids of human beings, we have a better planet. Unless you're a masochist, and then do unto others could mean something else. That aside. So that's it. And less hubris, you stupids, and more humility. And I followed that path my whole life, never thinking. Believe me, I always thought I was good, coupled with the idea that I thought I was a faker. This is human experience. 50% hubris, 50% insecurity. I thought I had talent, something to offer, something to give, but still, that aside, that's music. That's entertainment. It's what I'm good at. On the other hand, I'm the guy that walks off the stage and asks his wife to wash his underpants. That's it. Are you with me?
Absolutely.
Deep inside, we're all the same. I said it. Okay, you get up there on the pedestal, you get the money, the success, the power, the prestige. Look at how many people think you're something. You're just another human being on a planet that nobody understands, hurtling through space. If the pandemic doesn't teach people, then they're never gonna learn anything. But let's face it, settled science. John, remember the Big Bang? Were you there for the Big Bang? I wasn't available.
I wasn't either.
Yep. Boom. Guess what? Science was settled. And then you know what isn't settled? Human beings don't know nothing. They scratch, they sniff at the boundaries. But what do we know? We don't know anything. So try it, humans. Step back and say, I wish I knew more. Because right now I feel like I don't know something.
Well, I feel like even, kind of really piggybacking right off of that, you have a line in Land of the Living. I wasn't living, just existing. To me, and I know the song is more about finding love and kind of feeling that completion when you meet someone that you're meant to be with. But to me, it's funny how you can almost relate some of the lyrics to that song about what we all collectively as humans have gone through in this pandemic. Like the pandemic maybe gave us all gave us a time to sit back, reflect, and kind of figure out how and who we want to be as people moving forward.
Jim Peterick, that's the song that got me started. I said, Jim, I'm not making an album. You're going to have songs. Well, I got to go sit and write a song? I mean, how many? He said, I'll send you some ideas. He sent me a real good example of Land of the Living. And I thought, okay. So we sat down and started writing. And then we used our experiences. He's been married a long time to Karen. I've been married a long time to Suzanne. We started putting in the lyric, the arrangement. This is how Styx would do it. How do we make it sound like that? 3.5 years ago that was written. So we had no knowledge that there would be a pandemic. And then when I was getting ready to put it on this album, I called up Jim. I said, do you know what? This could be back in the land of the living. Wow! Pretty cool. And I said, should we change the lyrics and make them more centric to the idea of what we've been through? And then I thought, well, no, because people don't hear all the lyrics most of the time. They're going to remember it's good to be back in the land of the living, and they're going to think that's what it's about anyway.
Right.
So rather than get, look what's happened to us, oh my God, good to be, I decided no. So it was just dumb, stupid luck, which is my favorite kind, by the way, John. Dumb, stupid, oh God. It's because you're just sitting there eating pizza, something good happens to you. This is what I like. You don't have to work.
Well, and I think that's kind of an interesting thing is like, there's so much about, I feel like knowing that there's going to be finality in your career, it recorded at least by doing this, that I don't know if it would be more freeing to you to kind of do whatever, because you're like, fuck it, it's the last record. Like I want to go out. I want to push myself as much as I can. And I don't want to leave any stone unturned, either sonically, lyrically, whatever, because I want to, if this is going to be it, then this is going to be it. And I feel like the fact that you're even saying that years after you've written a song and you had it to where you thought it was ready to go, you're still even second guessing it and kind of doing that I have to believe that you're not done creating music. I mean, with the output of these two records and hearing you talk on all these other shows, I just don't believe that you're going to be able to put it away. Honestly.
I'm going to find out, right, John? Because pretty soon I'll be done promoting this thing, and then I got to sit here. It'd be different if I was going on tour because it would be distracted, but I'm not going to do that till next year. Because my theory is all the bands that rush out to play have really big alimony payments. So I have to tell you, I didn't say I would never write another song and record it. What I said was, hey, kids, if you like me, God bless you. If you don't, get lost. I'm not making a whole album anymore. It's too much work. Nobody cares. The music business is a shambles. It's a joke. I don't need your money. But if I can't even reach you as what I would call a significant audience, people, if somebody sells 50,000 CDs today, there's a parade in New York down Fifth Avenue for them. It's stupid. It's an insult to the greatest musical, not the greatest art form in the world, to the people who bring you that joy, because there's nothing that can bring people joy like music. No art form. I could stand in front of the Mona Lisa for a month at the Louvre, have baguettes brought in daily, right? She's not going to get any better looking.
That's very true.
I'm looking. I'm done. I don't need to look no more. Can you watch a movie 100 times?
If it's good.
You're not. What's wrong with you? 100 times a movie? John, I'm gonna have to have you get psychiatric help. 100 times reading a book, but 100 times listening to a song? You bet. That's why it's magic. I've been involved in it. I got involved in it accidentally, and I'm so happy I did. But if I want to write a song, I will, but I'll throw it up. But no more pressure to fulfill an audience that is so small. Because, you know, the joke, what do you do when the classic rock band plays a new song? Yeah, you go pee. If you play 3 songs, you go wash your car. This is the fact of life. John, wake up. All you people, it's like the people who like vinyl. Really? Okay. This is what I say to them. Here's the thing. Analog was traditionally always better than digital. Digital caught up. It sounds pretty good. Having said that, the first time you play your record is the best it will ever sound.
Absolutely.
It will never sound that way again. So I think for nostalgia purposes, or kids like you who think they missed something because they were there, I say, let's make the downloads where you can press a button and the smell of vinyl hits you in the face. This is all we need.
I understand what you're saying. My dad and I have this conversation all the time because he makes the comment of like,
bring him in here. I want to talk to an adult.
He is about an hour away in Kalamazoo. But it
KAMAZOO. What it got?
But it's one of those things, like, a lot of people ask me why I'm into vinyl, and I will say they've updated it enough to have a little bit more longer lasting playability. But I think the thing that interests me very much, like starting the podcast 5 years ago, is, I'm of the last generation, I'll say, that where we had tactile things. We had, CDs, vinyl, or I'm sorry, not CDs. We did have those, but we had cassettes. We had vinyl where you had to be immersed in being an active participant in listening to the music. Same with books. We didn't have audiobooks. We didn't have things that would just do those things for you. You had to be engaged in whatever medium of entertainment you wanted to be involved in. And to me, I feel like same with podcasting. I got into this because too many people, when you hang out with people, are just on their phones now. And it's like, I thought the whole point of coming to hang out with me was to actually hang out with me and converse and gain knowledge of each other and talk about things, and not just sit on our phones and ignore each other. Like, I could do that from the comfort of my own home. But I think that's the thing. I was talking with Josh Todd from Buck Cherry the other, probably about like 2 weeks ago now. And I had made the comment about, why do we still have classic music that audiences that were several decades removed away from these songs being hits in the first place, like your Journeys, your Styx, your Aerosmiths, your all these bands. Why do we still all listen to those records, and why are they timeless? And where are the other bands that are supposed to be coming underneath them and not replacing them, but making equally as great music? And the only band I can pinpoint that somehow has had that same kind of success is Foo Fighters. Like, I feel like they are the last band to really go across multi-generational and write full records and kind of give everyone the experience that a lot of us that kind of grew up in that era want and had.
You sound like an old person.
I have been told I have an old soul.
Look, you want to hear the truth?
Absolutely.
I mean, you said you wanted to talk to me. Listen to this now. We lived at the right time, all those bands in the 60s and 70s, because people were so focused on us and music. It was central to their life. There weren't all the distractions that young people have today, with the internet. The internet itself, the people walk around with a thing in their hand now that really contains the powers of an 18th century king. An 18th century king couldn't go, I'm going to call Berlin. I'm going to go, hey, guess what I think, Berlin? You see what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So they were focused, and music was central to their lives. That's not true today. It's not a fault of the audience. They are just products of their environment. They are absolute products of the changes in technology. And I don't think our generation or the generations you're talking about were more superior. We were just, like I said, we were people of our time. And I've said this over and over again. People laugh, but I'm telling you right now, Styx I wouldn't be as wealthy right now if all the young boys in those days had accessibility to porn. They're not going to be listening to Styx as much. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. That's an outrageous kind of comparison, but it's true. Now you can go, oh, look, I couldn't. If I was 15 and I could go like that and look at that, I'd go, what am I doing? I'm looking. So Styx later. This is a fact. People now have so many choices, and they become, it is the selfie generation. Mm. All the people who were successful and famous during my time had to earn it the hard way. They had to pass muster, get in it, go, as a tribunal, whoever they were. We had to meet their expectations. Then they led us in the club, into the record deal, and to the radio. Now everyone goes in the basement. I make a thing, I will put it up myself. Value is plummeted because of the ability for everyone not to be edited, not to have to be judged first, to be judged by the world at large. Do you get some really cool things out of there? Probably, but not enough. Mm. Because here's the joy that all your young listeners can say, when is this old man going to shut up? Here's when I lived. Here was our bargain. You heard something on the radio or saw something on TV and you liked it. And then you wrote it down and tried to listen again for it to come up on the radio a second time. And then I liked that. And down to the record store you'd go and you'd buy it. And it was the thing, and you brought it home. It was the thing. It was a thing. You could hold it in your hand. It wasn't a concept, right? It wasn't ether.
Right.
It was tangible. Now today, the radio still exists, but it doesn't have the reach because everything is in a niche, right? Everything is a genre. A subgroup of a subgroup of a. I only like Albanian hard rock, punk music with ballads, and occasionally they say a bad word. And they all have one leg. This is the music you could listen to. Hmm. And I say, when you have to search and look on the internet, it's like homework. It's not joy. Joy is just eating the pizza again. It comes on the radio. You're happy. It's mindless in a way, but it allows you to make a choice from those things that are presented. Now, people are going to go say, oh, you shut up, you old person, because now I can hear everything that's ever been recorded. Well, yeah, what would you do with that? How old are you? You got time? You don't have time. You see what I'm saying?
I do.
It's like, Will I find the most beautiful girl in the world that's perfect for me that I would marry, even if she's not beautiful because she loves me? Am I going to find that person? Maybe she lives within the next 2 miles of you. That's how it used to be. So, people.
I beg your
You were 2 miles from me, and I used to drive there. Snow,
pardon. I
rain.
was the best looking girl you ever dated.
Who said you weren't? I was just trying to say
Yeah, I
if
don't
John here had to.
Change it. He won't.
Is he too young?
Yes.
She was the best girl best looking girl I ever saw. That isn't even. I don't have to make that up. And she was so stupid and so naive at 15 that she thought I was cool. Anyway, so what the hell are we talking about? Oh, anyway, so music was, and now it's ubiquitous. People made a decision, had a decision to make, John, made a choice. Do you want the music to be constantly accessible or better quality? They said, yeah, if I'm taking a leak, I'd like to be able to hear something on my phone. That's what they decided. In the old days, you hear music in your car, right? You might see it on TV, or you heard it on your radio, or you played it in your house. But now, nobody dragged their stereo, as they say here, into the bukats, which is the word for the bathroom, and set up their stereo and sat there and listened. That's not what was going to happen.
Right.
So, you have accessibility to everything, and I see there your collection. There are records in that collection that you don't really play because you didn't like them, but you have them. But you won't throw them away, John. You won't, because it's hard. You can't throw them away. You hold it in your hand. I finally better get. You can't get rid of it. Back you put it.
See,
Now, if you download something or stream it, gone. Who cares? Because it ain't real. Like I told you, it's not tangible. It's not a thing.
it's funny. I make a rule. Every record I buy, I listen to it as soon as I get it before I put it into the collection. On top of that, I don't buy anything that I don't want, because I used to do that when I started buying records. I would buy something because I'm like, oh, I think I'm going to like this, and then buy it and didn't. And then it just sat there, and I was like, why am I wasting time and, more importantly, space on something that I'm not going to use and I'm not going to get value out of?
Well, you're talking about control. You could check out almost every song on an album now and then just decide. Back in the old days, you heard one song on the radio. You had to take a leap of faith.
So,
but a lot of great music was being created.
So to even counter your comment on that, something I've been doing recently with some of my favorite bands is, because I remember when all you would get is the promotional single, essentially, to sell the whole record, to get you to buy the whole thing. And there have been times more recently where, to get that experience, to get that excitement, to get that fulfillment, or that real experience I used to get growing up, there are times when a band that I love, if they put out a pre-order, I'm going to pre-order the record, not even going to check out the song. I'm going to wait until I physically get it. I'm going to put it on, and I'm going to listen to it all as it was intended to be taken in. And I know that is not the experience that most people do. And it has burned me. There have definitely been times I was really excited for a record and I listened to it and I didn't love it right away. So then I did what we all used to do. You listen to it some more. And maybe you realize that there's certain things that aren't necessarily a first time listen. You have to really live the record and find out what it is saying. There have been times with some artists where I'll listen to the record and I'll try to listen to it, and I don't get it. I don't get it as the listener. I don't get it from a musician standpoint. But then I go see the artist live and I see them play those songs and I go, oh, this was never meant necessarily for the listening experience. This was always meant for a live experience. And now when I listen to those songs, I go, it takes me back to the live experience. It takes me back to an experience I had with hundreds of thousands of others, potentially a shared experience, which is what I think music is kind of all about. It's supposed to be enjoyed individually, but also with a whole bunch of other people, with other fans. And that has been something, as I've gotten older, where so many people are just quick to be like, oh yeah, that record's cool for today, or this is fine for now. And no one talks about it. I want more out of it, because I guess I have more of an appreciation for finding little nuances, little Easter eggs in the overdubs, the overlays, or, hey, that was cool. You played this melody here, but then it comes back, or there's a line that references another song. You can't do that if you only listen to something the one time. That's something you have to earn. Just like I feel like age. Like my wife is like, I hate getting older. And I'm like, I love getting older because you have to earn it. It's not something you can typically just dumb luck your way through. You have to fucking earn your age. Or something terrible will probably have taken you out. So
How old are you?
I'm going to be 37 in September.
Okay. Let's face it, you're
that way after 70.
yeah, right. You're a nice intelligent music nut. So because you make it your life. There are a lot of people who view music as background, atmosphere to their lives. You don't. So you're coming from a point of view that's intrinsically more dedicated to the exploration of music. And that's great. But most people don't. They want to hum along and maybe shake their hip. And I love them all. If they love me, I love them right back. I'm easy. Here, scratch me right here. I'm following you. Is that wrong to say that? No, because we're just looking for approval and love, aren't we, John? We want to be approved of. We want our dad and our moms to be proud of us. You know that. So, but what you're talking about is on a different level as a listener and somebody who does it semi-professionally. Do you have a job?
Yeah. Yep. This does not pay my bills, sadly.
All right. So let's talk about 26 East, Volume 2. Got a question for me?
I do. On Last Guitar Hero, I was really excited to get to that song because I was like, all right, Last Guitar Hero, like, where are you going to go with it musically? What is it going to be about lyrically? And, I'm kind of wondering, like, are you going to bring a guest on too? Because I'm like, okay, Last Guitar Hero, who are you deeming who as the Last Guitar Hero? And then I see in the liner notes, Tom Morello's on it. How did you end up working with Tom for that song? And what do you feel like he brought? Or I guess more to the point, do you feel like he is the Last Guitar Hero?
I played Adam Sandler's Christmas Hanukkah Shindig about 4 or 5 years ago. I sang, he had a bunch of famous people come in to his big party. Tom was there. And my guitar player asked Tom, do you want to meet Dennis? And he said, yeah. And we talked, and he said he was a Styx fan. I went, wow. And he saw the Paradise Theater tour, he saw Mr. Roboto tour, and he liked them both. Okay, so this song was written, Jim Peterick and I wrote it, again, 3 years ago. And I started saying, who's going to play on? And 5, 4, 3, 2, come on. There you go.
Yep.
Listen, when it comes in on this iPad, and this is not as good as Zoom. Zoom comes right back. Can you see me yet?
Yeah, I can see you.
Do I? I can't see me. Maybe I should see. Well, I know what I look like. There I am. I thought, okay, who's the Last Guitar Hero? I thought, the great Houdini Tom Morello might be the last guy who did something different with the guitar.
Absolutely.
A lot of guys can play notes. I think I've said this a million times. I look on YouTube. There's a 4-year-old Japanese girl who does all Eddie Van Halen solos. Oh, that's possible. But okay, he did something different, and I met him. He said he was a fan, so I just contacted him. He said, "Send me the song." I sent him the song. He said, "I love this song." Okay, that's a deal. That's it. It's just as easy as that. And what did he bring? Well, he brought Tom Morello, which is I thought, hey, he didn't ask me, what do you want me to do? I just basically said, you're Tom Morello. I mean, I'm not going to ask you how Dennis DeYoung should sing. He's got a good idea. So that's how that happened. And he played, and I went, wow. Never saw that coming. So that's how it worked out. Two guys, like a mutual admiration society musically for each other, just coming together to make each other's music better.
Absolutely. I think that's
Yeah, but I'm going to be playing keyboards and doing backing vocals on the next Rage tour. No, I'm not.
That would be really interesting, especially if they did any of the cover stuff. I could see you doing some interesting keys.
Now, Babe, by Dennis DeYoung with Rage Against the Machine. I don't know.
I could see you doing some stuff like they did that covers record where they did like the Ghost of Tom Jones and stuff like that, and it was really stripped down. I could see you doing an interesting accompaniment to something like that, actually.
Yeah, you don't want to see me stripped.
I thought something kind of weird, I think, a little bit, but I think it would lead to maybe an interesting story given how long you've had a career in the music business, putting out records. With this, and I know it's a little bit different now, necessarily can't go to your local record store and pick up your record, but do you have a ritual that you go through when celebrating the release of a new album?
Not the last two. I mean, it was pandemic both times. It wasn't much of a ritual. The last one I did, other than that, was 100 years from now. I did. That's a really good record. If you've never heard it, you should pick it up. Really terrific. It was 2009. Yeah. So in the old days, you'd have an album listening party, even when I was in my solo career. But like so much else in the music business, the hoopla that surrounds the release of a record is, saying, well, fine, well, we got that done. It's not like it used to be. Hey, cake and ice cream. No, it's not like that. So it's more, I got it done. Let's listen to it. Mission accomplished. It doesn't suck, because that was the goal. Don't suck, man.
Right.
Music has become so cliched, popular music, and especially rock music, because we've been kicking this idea of rock music around since 1954, 55. It's a long time to take 3 or 4 chords and bash them. You know what I mean? It's finite. Humans aren't that clever. So it's like when I see somebody young breaking their guitar on stage, I yawn and I nod off. I mean, how many times? Please, you are a cliche of a cliche of a cliche. Google, you got Google, kids? This was done in the middle 60s, for goodness sake. Call Pete, offer him some of your royalties. It's just like, of course, there's all kinds of young people who think everything started last Thursday. I think you could argue that. So you see what I'm saying? There's no hoopla. You did it. You send it to your record company, and you hope they like it. After all, they paid for it. And then you wait for people like yourself to pass judgment. And that's what people do when they stick their arms up over the crowd and jump up and down and say, "Hey, look at me, judge me." That's what I gave you. I gave you permission, John. I don't know you. I gave you permission to judge me. That's the bargain. And if you think, well, this guy's a poo-poo face, that's the risk I take. And I just hope I find like-minded people who would say, hey, you know what? I like this. It makes me happy. I learned something. It makes me happy. That's what we're shooting for. So the hoopla, and in this day and age, don't blink, you might miss it, because it's the ever-evolving rush to nowhere that humanity is on through technology. Gone like what did I say? We're all just bits and bytes. It's in the lyric of Last Guitar Hero, which is really about technology more than it is about the Last Guitar Hero, which has been a concern of mine since Mr. Roboto. The problem's plain to see: too much technology, machines to save our lives, machines to humanize. Is it true? Damn right, it's true. Machines can save our lives, and they dehumanize. That was a thought I had in 1982. It's still true today. And nothing makes me happier than go to the video of Mr. Roboto, which has only been like 3.5 years, has almost 22 million, 21. What is it? And And people saying, yeah, I feel this way. Daft Punk owes them royalties, stuff like that. And I think to myself, well, I was just talking about the replacement of what I saw, working class people, by the automation of their jobs in factories. Because I came from an area in Chicago where everyone worked with their hands, had a lunch pail. The real, true blue-collar workers of America. And I saw how in the 80s that was in jeopardy. And these people who worked hard didn't have the higher education because for whatever reason they couldn't afford it, couldn't do it, World War II, blah, 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 were able to raise families like mine and have a decent life. Never getting rich, never caring about it, just have a decent life. And I thought that was all in jeopardy. And now we see it reflected in the political situation where people are scared to death. They're so filled with fear and anger that, and rightly so, because they know that they don't need a text from somebody to tell them that you're next to be replaced. That's what that song is about.
I think it's kind of interesting, talking. I was kind of picking up on some of that in The Last Guitar Hero. And I think it even kind of goes back to a little bit of what you and I were actually just talking about probably 5-10 minutes ago. The thing, like I was saying, that I loved about this record from start to finish, and realistically everything that you've put out is, and I think it speaks more to you as an individual and as an artist, is I don't really feel like I've ever heard anything you've done where I felt like you compromised yourself because it's good enough. We already got 9 songs. 10th one can be You've never really shortchanged your passion, it seems to me, as someone who doesn't know you at all. And I've always thought that was kind of commendable. And when you go back, because as you were kind of asking me about, like, or saying, people don't really listen to music and so forth, something that I have found myself doing more of, because someone actually had just asked me this through one of our podcast socials or whatever, like, what are you listening to? Because you like, similar things as me. And I go, honestly, I don't really listen to a whole lot of new music anymore. I feel what I kind of do now is I go back and I try to find where things are coming from that informed what's happening now. So there is a hip hop producer that's from the Detroit area that's been, deceased for almost 20 years now. And I have been going back and listening to his music. And then once I kind of felt over the last 3 to 5 years that I got a sense of what he was doing, I started going to all the other things he started touching, the other artists he worked with, and then kind of slowly seeing like, oh, at this point, he was replaced and kind of had worked with the Kanye West when Kanye West was an unknown at the time. And then kind of seeing how Kanye kind of picked the pieces of this person, Jay Dilla, and moved forward and took what he was doing and moved forward with it. There's that line, and I might be misquoting it, or I might have the wrong person, which is kind of irony if I do, but I think it was Thomas Jefferson who said, those who don't know their history are doomed to repeat it. And the older I get, I tend to find that you can relay that sentiment into so many things, because yes, I could sit there and tell you whatever about Cardi B that I read about in some stupid headline, but does it have any value? Probably not. Like, but is there something maybe that if I actually went beyond the surface and kind of went and looked at, the producer who wrote something and then saw that they did something and then kind of go back and then how did whatever they were informed by get you to where we are currently? To me, and kind of, in wrapping up my thought, it was a thing where, like you said, interestingly enough, as I've gone back through your lyrics and your music over, my lifetime, and talking about it with like my parents and so forth, it's one of those like where you're just shocked that it's like, yeah, lyrically and everything, this is all still relevant because we're still all going through the same shit that we were a while ago. We haven't solved anything. Why don't we pay attention to the artists sometimes when they're actually speaking truths about bigger things than just a poppy song? And that's kind of the unfortunate thing, I think, sometimes when we as music fans only credit you for just being this one thing, this niche thing, and not something that we could look at in a way bigger spectrum to maybe have a bigger conversation.
Well,
Sorry, I got long-winded there.
No, that's okay. I think people have rent to pay. They have children to raise. They have, disease to deal with in their lives. I don't expect them to. You're different. I told you. You're one of the one who was trying to think the big thing, as Dr. Seuss says, and look into everything because this is your passion. Most people, I like that. I'm going to listen. And so I don't expect them. But here's what I would say. Did we talk about Deep Inside We're All the Same yet? Because I've done so many interviews today.
I think we touched on it.
Okay, I said it 77. Deep Inside We're All the Same. That's it. And however we puff ourselves up into, we talked about hubris, have we? And humility. Okay, good. Can you see what happens to a guy who does 4 Zooms in a row? My theory is this. I had some things I thought were important to say, and I tried to wrap them in melody. That was what I was doing. And some people took it at face value and listened to the music, and the rest of it was just, it was there if you wanted to, and if you didn't want it, that's okay. Which leads me to my thought on people who only like one type of music, or they gravitate to them, and the rest of it. In a rock and roll purist, most of those people don't like anything that's romantic or soft. They have no time for it. And I think to myself, well, okay, I think you're missing out. If this is how you want you to live your life, it's good. Who cares? Not me. Music is too large, too beautiful, too there to be embraced in so many different ways. The ways I can be entertained, the ways I can feel by the various different styles of music. That's me. And so I have tried, as my role in Styx, and out to try to not just be that. We got AC/DC if you want that. They're very good at it. Okay? Here's a short album, AC/DC ballads. Where is that? So, okay. On the other hand, as a person who creates music, I just can't be doing one thing all the time because it's boring, unfulfilling, and it doesn't appeal to me. So, for people who took anything from the lyrics I wrote, I'm happy. And I know they have because they tell me on social media. They tell me on YouTube comments, on Facebook. And I think sometimes, John, I go, oh my God, I told them not to put me on a pedestal. And they did anyway. And I can't stop them. And I wouldn't tell you, there isn't a part of me that feels gratified. What am I, full of shit? Yeah, it's great. On the other hand, when they say Dennis is God's gift, I think I need to have a conversation with God. That doesn't sound right to me. I know Dennis. He doesn't have that much to do with God. I mean, so humility. I know I'm good, John. What am I, stupid? I know I'm good. But I also know I'm deep inside, you and I are the same. We have our, what's the word I'm looking for? We're so far from perfect, it's not even funny. And perfect should never come into the conversation because it doesn't exist in humankind. But what I tried to do was to be the best I could. And I had to treat the audience with respect because they paid for everything I have. They gave me the notoriety. They gave me the nice car and the nice house and the ability to get extra cheese on pizza if that's what I want to do. So I know who I am. I've known who I am since I started doing this. And I've tried to be honest, understanding that, I'll put on these satin pants. I'll have my hair down to here. I'll give you a little something that will trick you into believing I am special all the time, telling you, well, deep inside, we're all the same. And that's why this album, I couldn't do this album unless see, this is why I went, make another album, Dennis, it's so sad. You make another album. Here's what I would tell him. Go buy 200,000 copies. I'll make one personally for you. Okay? But that's not where we're at. And for me to just keep doing it, it's way too much work for somebody 74 years old. And I've done enough where you could go and say, and pick and choose what you like from it.
Absolutely.
And I don't mean to be dismissive, but when you keep the bar as high as I've always kept it for myself. At some point you go, I jumped. Did you see me? I jumped. And I jumped, and now I'm not jumping. Because I could break a hip. This is my philosophy.
Last question for you before I let you go. Looking back at the legacy of your career, is there something that stands out as your proudest moment now that you basically are kind of done recording full albums at this point? Is there something that stands out to you as something that you look back and go, that I'm very proud of that?
Longevity. Number one, I want to thank the inventors of porn that they weren't interfering with my success. And number two, Styx ultimately represented a vision that I had that was simple. Write a great song, make the best record you can of it. Don't be overwhelmed with style, just quality. You don't have to belong to the biker gang or the hippies or this political party or that religious sect. Just be true to yourself, make the best songs, and sing them good. That's what I thought. So, Babe, Bravado, Renegade, Come Sail Away, Castle Wall, what do they have in common? People would say, they don't even sound like the same band. And I would go, yes, success. That's what I wanted. I just wanted to give people an eclectic look at what we were musically and find out what they liked in what we did.
I think that's one of the things that has endeared you to not only like someone like myself who wasn't around, in the quote unquote heyday, but your music has endured, is the fact that you don't belong in any one place. You belong everywhere. And I think that your music will, as I was saying earlier, with the different bands that I mentioned, your music will live on for many, many generations and all that. So
You're a great man, John. I thank you for that. And I would just say in closing, 26 East, kids, go on YouTube. You don't have to pay for anything. You want to check that out? Isle of Misanthrope, cool video. Then there's another video where I explain the depth and the drama of that video by poking fun at everything in it. Have you seen that one?
I did. I watched it the other day, actually.
So you know who I am. This is serious. On the other hand, that's not get too serious. And then there's the Tom Morello one. There's another one coming. You can make your choice. And as I've oftentimes said, follow me on Facebook, not into the men's room.
Well, thank you very much for your time. And I assume your wife is still sitting out a shot of the screen. Thank her as well for sharing your time with me today.
Well, but about 20 minutes ago, she was bored.
Okay, fair enough. Well, thank you very much. And very much looking forward to hopefully when touring comes back for you next year to catch the show and just kind of see what kind of spectacle you're going to put on with I don't know how you're going to put a set list together, honestly. Because I think you could honestly go out with Volume 1 and Volume 2, play half of each record, and I would be pretty stoked with that.
I'll let you promote that tour. You ready to lose money?
I got out of the booking game a long time ago, actually, so no, I'm not.
All right.
Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks. See ya. Bye-bye.
So that was my conversation with Dennis DeYoung, formerly of Styx. Again, his latest solo album, his last recorded album, 28 East Volume 2, is out now. Go pick it up, stream it wherever you can. Again, I want to say, I just love the fact that he is a man who will talk at length. He has great stories. He wasn't afraid for me to kind of challenge him a little bit on some stuff, and was really interested in a discourse, and I kind of love that. And he didn't use my age against me necessarily, and kind of respected when I had to say something, and that I felt strongly about some of the things that I did, about collecting records, about the fact that we've lost touch with one another in a physical sense, as far as, wanting tangible things that we can all have now, experiences. And I walked away from this conversation just feeling really, really good about it. Kind of charged me up for about a couple of days, just, it's good. That's what a good podcast, that's what a good conversation can do for you. You just walk away going like, yeah, we kind of talked about some shit, and I think some people are really going to enjoy this. Speaking of really enjoying this, and another legend, I feel remiss if I didn't talk about this really awesome bourbon that I just recently got. So if you follow me on our socials, we'll plug all that in a few minutes. You'll know that I went to a local liquor store that I love here in town, Rishi's, over on 28th Street if you live here in Grand Rapids or nearby. They have a great beer selection, great liquor selection. Rishi and the crew are very, very accommodating, great customer service. But they had one of my favorite football players of all time, Charles Woodson. Obviously, if you know me, I love sports. I'm a U of M guy. Go Blue. And Woodson has parlayed his post-football career into wine and now into bourbon. And the bourbon is made using some of his wine barrels. So it's really interesting, cross-pollination of some of his projects. I was lucky enough to have him sign a bottle, and then I went and found some that was not signed, and I just recently bought it. It is super smooth. It is crazy how you can get some of the wine flavor out of it, kind of more on the back end, kind of like that, like kind of tanny, flavor on the end of tannins, I believe is actually the word I'm looking for. But it's interesting because in this day and age where a lot of people try to brand themselves into other things, as you famously heard me drink the Metallica beer, which tasted like shit. Sometimes some people just slap their name on something just to sell it. And the integrity behind Woodson's bourbon is, you can tell that this needed to be something that stood up to the legacy of Charles Woodson in his Hall of Fame career. And it's one of those where I wish some other people had more integrity in what they do. And the way that parlays actually into, this conversation with Dennis DeYoung, I feel he has always had integrity. He's always had professionalism. And, it was kind of funny as his wife was listening in and kind of chimed in a couple of times, the fact he's still with her, that they've been together this whole time, the fact that he, he is the consummate professional as I've always known him to be. He just is, he's the man. There's no other way I can put it without, just using the same words over and over and over again. But this bourbon, very much like Mr. DeYoung's career in this album, smooth, really tasty, and I have a good time enjoying these things at a very slow pace to really take it all in and just enjoy it. So that is going to be my drink for this podcast. And let's wrap up this thing. If you would like to follow Dennis, he's not super active on all the other social medias. I didn't find him on Instagram, and I didn't find him on Twitter, but he is on Facebook at Dennis DeYoung Official. And I'm actually really surprised, and I want you guys to go check out what he's doing over on his YouTube channel. Just basically search Dennis DeYoung on YouTube. You'll find him. He posts things constantly, telling stories, answering questions that have kind of accumulated. That's sort of what Facebook is as well. His website is just DennisDeYoung.com is just rife with lots of cool things, stories, links to interviews and so forth. It is, like I said, he is one of the few people from his generation that has seemingly really latched on to connecting with fans in new ways. Now that there are all these digital platforms to do such. So just again, what an icon, what a legend to be able to do it for so long and at such a high level, and not to be afraid or intimidated to find new ways to be with your fans, and interact with them. So yeah, like I said, go to YouTube, search out Dennis DeYoung, or just go to DennisDeYoung.com. All of it will be there. If you would like to keep up with this podcast, simple enough, BREWspeakPod.com. That is the landing page for this podcast. Everything you need to know about us is over there. And last but not least, want to shout out our sponsors for the show. First, I want to start off with Rockabilia.com. Use our code BREWtally. It is new. We got a new code. Apparently, the old one was linked onto some sites, so you didn't have to listen to the show. So the new code is BREWtally, BREWtally. You would have heard it right in the beginning of the episode, so just want to make sure you know BREWtally. Take 10% off your total purchase order. Want to thank Rockabilia again for coming on and sponsoring our show. The Bean Bastard, head on over to thebeanbastard.com, pick up some delicious coffee, support those guys and gals over at their brick and mortar in the Buffalo, New York area if you are able to. And last but not least is On Point Palm Leaf. Keep your beard and hair looking on point. Use our code BSP15 and take 15% off your total purchase order. And for the BREWtally Speaking Podcast, I'm John, and I will talk to you all next week, where I am joined by Frankie of Sleepwaker, and we will talk to you then.
Oh, that fucking sucked. Shao Kahn, what'd you think?
That was pathetic.
Yeah. Coach, what'd you think?
Fucking embarrassing!
Okay. Okay. I mean, I knew it was gonna fucking suck, but I think those guys were a little rude. Austin Powers?
How about no?
Okay, I thought we were gonna get the Austin Powers vote. We did not. John, use that for your podcast. It fucking sucks, but you knew what you were getting into. It will result in less listens. You're gonna see a decline in listeners if you start the show with that. You're gonna see 30 seconds in, the number will plummet. And I will be there at the bottom of the plummet saying, I fucking told you, don't use this fucking riff. It sucks.